Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Fanspire. I'm Priyanka, your host for today. It's been a while since we've done a live show and, of course, discussed about football here. But the Women's World Cup is on, and we've had a brilliant run of matches. So, of course, I have to, uh, you know, uh, hop on here and talk about the World Cup. So, as you have seen, we are down to the last match of this tournament, the last two matches, if you consider third place. And the World Cup final is between England and Spain. Two teams who have performed brilliantly, as you can see on screen. And it's like the final showdown. So there's so much to talk about. There's so much to discuss about the game, about the growth of women's football as well. And joining me, we have Adam and Unity, two fans and two people who are involved in the women's game. So welcome to the fans the show. Really great to have you guys here today. Let's hear a little bit about what you guys do. Both of you are involved in football media and the sport as well. So, Unnati, do you want to give us a quick rundown of what do you do?
Hi everyone, I'm Onati and I've been working closely as a sports journalist for Art of Football. And previously, I've worked for some other sports media outlets like Sporting Her Football Hub, Wavell UK, and now I work for Art of Football. And yeah, big fan of the game. I've previously studied medicine and obviously because this sport is my passion and working in the industry is my passion, and yeah, that's the reason why I'm here.
Thank you so much. Really glad to have you here today. And Adam, we have Adam joining us all the way from England. Of course, the Lionesses have made it to the final, so we were like, yes, an England fan is what we need here today. So, Adam, yes, please tell us a little bit about what you do and about your love for football as well.
Yeah, I mean it's a long story, so I'll try and cut it short because there's better things to talk about than just my life story. But yes, my name's Adam, big football fan, big Arsenal fan, big fan of the women's football. Started to properly get into it just before COVID, and after COVID, I set up a blog to write about it, and then was able to go back to the games, and then started working a bit with Unity, with Sporting Her, and have since sort of continued to write about the game at free time. I'm not a busy man to have another career. This is more of a side sort of hobby, which is great. And yeah, did a lot of writing during the Euros last summer, and sort of carried that on throughout the season. And yeah, now I find myself dropping onto people's YouTube channels talking about football, which is really fun.
Perfect, amazing. Quickly, just to ask you, how is the atmosphere in England at the moment? Like, is there a lot of talk about the World Cup, the final? Is there like buzz all around? Are people talking about it? Are there like posters all around? What's the scenario like there?
Well, it's definitely the flavour of the month, shall we say? It's talk of the town. Last summer it was on another level because it was everywhere, on crisp packets and on billboards. But I think what the best way I can sort of describe the hype is I work in an office with people who like football and they're mostly into the men's football, and so that's what the general discussion is. Women's football doesn't come up that much. Everyone's sold. Everyone's in.
I think we
People are
lost
coming
you
up
there
to
for a
me
second.
and
Yeah, go on, go
asking,
on.
"Oh, that game." Oh, yeah, people come up to me in the office and they say, "Oh, that game was amazing. That Lauren James goal, she's amazing. Russo, what a player." And these are people who aren't going to Meadow Park or Kings Meadow or wherever team they support, but they are sold on the Lionesses and they're watching along. We had it on in the office and everybody was listening in. Everybody was cheering as the goals went England's way, and less so when Sam Kerr scored. So it's definitely hit a tone with the public. I think the Euros has helped, but I would say the semi-finals that England have had in previous tournaments, it's all built up to this moment, this clear progression. And we've got now to the point, it's firmly in the public conscience. It's definitely with the people I talk to. They want to talk about Lionesses. They want to learn more. They're asking me, "Oh, when's the game at the weekend, Adam? What time's kickoff? Who's going to win? Can England win?" Yes, and I just think it's amazing. 10 years ago, we wouldn't have these conversations. People wouldn't.
Right.
And that is amazing.
Absolutely. Just to like echo, what you have said, I think it's all around the world. Actually started, getting into the sport around 2016, 2017, watching the NWSL. Stamkos that time played for like Sky Blue FC, and she was scoring bicycles over there, and nobody knew about it. And to see the level that it's reached today, we have so many people just wearing the jersey. Australia with the crowd. It's been a beautiful journey just watching the game grow. And as you said, right, people are getting interested. Yep, as you can see on screen, um, the last match versus Australia and England, around 11.15 million live viewers, and that's just brilliant, because as I said previously, a couple of years ago, we were searching for streams just to watch a match. Right? It wasn't this accessible. Right. So, leaving aside the last few games, we've had like a brilliant run of the World Cup in terms of the round of 16. We've seen like many matches go to penalties. We've seen some brilliant football over there as well. And coming to the quarterfinals and the semi-finals, bit of heartbreaks for some. But, Unnati, just quickly to ask you, who are you supporting right from the beginning?
That's a loaded question.
Like pretty much everybody who knows me knew that I wanted Spain to win so bad, and I've been wanting Spain to win for a very long time. But it was like coming into this tournament, I was supporting everybody except for Spain. And obviously there's a good enough reason for that as well.
Yes.
But to be very honest, I knew, like, obviously we've had like a lot of shocking games and shocking exits and stuff like that. But I sort of expected, like, coming into this, I was adopted by the by my Swedish friends, and everyone was like, okay, since you've given up on Spain, we're going to bring you onto the Swedish squad, and basically you are going to be like one of the Swedish fans. So I was hoping that Sweden won, but hard luck, I guess. I think every single team that I supported against Spain in their matches, Spain have ended up winning. The reverse jinx has worked.
Apart from Japan.
Somehow.
Don't forget Japan. Japan actually did the job properly.
Japan was the only team who heard me.
Yeah, so let's just quickly get to talking about the match itself, England versus Spain. There's so much to talk about it from a tactical point of view, because we've seen Spain, in terms of the performance, they weren't as confident as England, I would say, because we've seen them a bit shaky here and there, last minute winners, whereas England has been really, really confident in terms of the play and in terms of, their execution of, especially in terms of scoring and things like that. So what do you guys feel about the confidence of both these teams going into the final? Adam, do you want to take this first?
Yeah, I mean, I've been very unconfident. But I've been a pessimist, almost like Unity. I've been saying England aren't going to win, and just saying England aren't going to win throughout the entire tournament. So if you've got two people on the show who don't think their team or don't want their team to win, which is a really bizarre position to be, but for different reasons. My lack of confidence is the fact that I'm just grown up with England being rubbish, men and women, men's mostly being rubbish in tournaments. So this is fantastic for me. I think the team have grown in this tournament. I think back to the first game against Haiti, it was 1-0. We weren't great. Denmark, again, a bit better, but it's a bit, 1-0, and then we sort of tapered off a bit. But since that Nigeria game, when Lauren James got sent off, but we won on penalties again, England winning on penalty, sort of grown and grown and grown. And one of the sort of arguments I heard around this was Japan. Japan were amazing in the group stage, and then they obviously beat Spain. And then it just sort of went a bit rubbish and a bit naff, and then they got beaten by Sweden. What I like about England is that they have paced themselves so well in this tournament, and they've grown organically and built those connections. They've changed tactics. We're going to talk about tactics. They've changed their tactics. They were a back four at the start. They've moved to a back three. We've had Alessia Russo as a sole striker. She's now paired with Lauren Hemp. We have wing backs. Well, Rachel Daly, she was pinned as she's going to be a striker. No, she's a wing back now. Yep. And I'm loving it. And I think there is a real sense of confidence, a belief that this team can do it. And I think that, and that's, well, we'll go into Spain and what their perspective is. But there's a sort of momentum behind England, which is really good to see. But whether it can topple Spain, well, that's another matter.
Adam, don't you think that the mastermind behind England would be Serena?
So I mean, where do we begin? I mean, certainly, if this was a battle of head coaches, just take the football players off the pitch. If it was just a case of just Serena versus Georges Vildemort in a sort of cage match, who is the most intelligent sort of coach, Serena would win hands down. She is the most intelligent, competent coach in the international women's game. She's reached 4 international tournament finals in a row with 2 teams. Right. She's only lost once with England. Although we rectified that mistake when we beat Australia in the semi-finals, which was quite nice. Serena's only ever lost 1 final, and that was to USA. And I think we can all be excused to losing to the USA. She came into England when we were on a real low. We crashed out again to the Australians in the Olympics because we were managed by somebody called Hega Risa. Lord knows what's happened to her since. And now we've got Serena came in, and I think we were hopeful. We're hopeful that this, we knew Serena's quality. She had beaten England in 2017. She can change the team, maybe get us going again. I think we were last summer blown away by her impact. Just the way she remains calm, the way that the team is so motivated. There's direction. I look back to some.
Right.
So,
right. I think we're facing a bit of audio issues there. But yeah, coming back to Uditi, do you see this game going to penalties and extra time?
I definitely think that this has the potential to go to extra time. Whether it goes to penalties after that is in the hands of Mr. George the Builder, also known as Jorge Vilda. But I honestly feel that to be very honest with you, they potentially have the chance to win the World Cup, but knowing that this has already happened back at the Euros, there is a 50% possibility that he's going to do something as usual and he's going to mess it up. So in order to be not very optimistic, I'm just going to say that it could go to extra time, but penalties is a question mark. But at the same time, you had players who were not there at the Euros, and now you have the players, 2 of them, 2 very important players who are back, for the World Cup. So their mentality is going to matter. But at the same time, you have multiple players who have been there at the Euros and who were absolutely important to the team, who absolutely are important to the team, who are not there this time in the squad. So it's a mix of both, where in terms of you don't understand what kind of synergy are they going to be getting into the game. How it's going to play out is a question that only time will tell.
Right. So let's take a quick. So basically, we have Debru, who has said his prediction is that Spain will win the game handsomely. Bonmati, described by Pep Guardiola as the Iniesta of women's football and the game changer, looking forward to the final. Absolutely, I think a lot of people will agree with you Juan Mati has been so crucial to Spain. And but actually, I do have another question. In terms of like starting, we saw in the last game, the semi-finals, that once Alexia was taken out of the game, her substitute came on and made a big impact. Do we see Alexia starting again? Like, do we see her in the starting lineup, or do we see her used as like a super sub coming off the bench? Any of you who would want to go ahead and
Well, as the non-Spanish person looking in, is it Pariello? Please forgive me if I pronounce the name wrong. She has, I think, the last 2 games she scored. I think she got the winner against Netherlands, amazing goal, solo goal, halfway line, brilliant impact off the bench. Again, off the bench against Sweden, got the ball rolling there. I think back to the Euros with England, we had finishers. We had special players who would come off the bench, like Russo, like Toon, like Kelly. Now, if George Vilda is a competent coach, you'd think, right, strong substitute. Alexia, experience, she would start. 20 minutes to go, bring Pariello on. Defence is a bit tired. I'll play her, tired legs. She's going to have an impact. That if he has his competent head screwed on. But who knows? He might think that she's a starter. And I think if she's a starter, I would probably be happy with that. For me, she's a really good super sub.
Right. Niti, your thoughts on this?
I think one of the most important things that you asked me in the beginning of the question was, what do we think about Alexia? I think majority of the people coming into this competition have just forgotten the fact that she's coming off of an ACL injury, and she's been out for more than 12 months. The fact that people are expecting her to perform instantly and be at her best is absolutely impossible. It takes, there are players who come back off of an ACL, and are never the same as they were before.
Right, absolutely.
But for the fact, if you notice the times that she's been on the pitch, you'll always see the small little clues that she leaves on the pitch, because she's very football intelligent, and it shows on the pitch, because when you see the kind of passes she's making, the kind of balls she's putting through for the players to go ahead with, that shows that it's just not exactly the fact that she has to be at her best at this moment, but she just needs to be the support system for this team to just go ahead, and that's what she's been doing perfectly. And at the same time, we need to realize that she's been the captain of this team, and she's a captain in general as well. Obviously, she's a captain of Barcelona, but at the same time, she's just a person that you go to, because she is someone who not only motivates you on the field but off the field as well. So it's an impact that nobody's taking into consideration. That she is someone who you just go to, just talk to her about football, and her brain in terms of football is just so amazing that there are very few people who understand football the way that she does. And that's the brilliance about Spanish football. Like, you have players like Aitana Bonmati, Alexia, Patri, who, even though she's not currently in the squad, but when you think about it, the football intelligence is there so well that you just think how they translate it onto the pitch. Sometimes unless you know football in depth, you might not even notice it. A move that is so difficult, done so effortlessly, that looks effortless to you, but in reality is so difficult. So I think that's one of the biggest things that people need to take into consideration when it comes to Alexia in this tournament. Go ahead.
Because with Alexia, I think she's got the best mind. I just wonder if her body can project what her mind is on football, and whether because of ACL injury, is she able to play at the level her mind is at? I would say, like, for example, when we went into the semi-finals, Sam Kerr was coming back from a calf injury, and I knew A, she was going to start, and B, she was going to score against her, and I was scared of that. And maybe this is traditional English arrogance. I'm not as scared about Alexia, simply because throughout the tournament, she's been a bit, not playing all the minutes, and she's still come back from an ACL. And I don't think we'll see the Alexia that was so amazing last season with Barcelona in the World Cup final. but maybe she's yet to shine, but maybe it's her moment. But at the moment, I'm not getting the terrifying vibes I got from Sam Kerr in the semi-final.
Adam, there would be a very big difference between a calf injury and an ACL injury.
Oh, yes,
I'm very sorry to say
I
that.
know. That's my point.
Yeah, so that that's the difference. Like for her, like to be on the pitch, there are multiple different reasons why she's there on the pitch. Like I mentioned, there are some things that go beyond what she does on the pitch, and it takes a very attention to detail to understand the way that she plays. There are times where she will have misplaced passes, etc. But at the same time, there are moments where she will be one of the players who has a key impact on the game. So irrespective of how we see football, as she might have her greatest moment and stuff, everybody knew going into the tournament that it's not going to be her best.
Do you think does she play for 90 minutes?
I highly doubt. In my opinion, I feel she's not prepared for 90 minutes.
Okay.
So I don't think she's going to be playing 90 minutes. However, it would be very interesting to see whether he starts her or not, because to understand, like he starts her to set up a tempo, and then, like you mentioned, bring on Salma, have fresh legs on, and understanding like how she has good pace and everything. It wouldn't be too hard for her to get behind English defenses, considering that she uses that pace. So that's something that we need to keep in mind, because that was something that Spain sort of lacked. In a way, they didn't lack it, they just had it on the bench and they didn't use it. But that is what they lacked last year at the Euros. Obviously Salma was injured, so we did not see her at the Euros. You obviously did not have other experienced players like Jenni and Alexis in general. But the fact that that mentality, considering that this team has never been in a final in general, they've never won a knockout game, for God's sake. So their mentality, their experience, their command on the pitch is going to be extremely important for the team. Because if you consider how England have, irrespective that they've never been in a World Cup final, they have that experience of being at the Euros, they have the experience coming off of other major tournaments, which is something that Spain does not have. So they need these players in order to ground themselves in the beginning of the game. And that's the reason why I feel that he might start Alexia, because she brings in that experience, knowing what it is like to play in a final. And then set the tempo of the game, and then bring in someone like Salma on, and you just have a cheat code basically.
Right.
I do want to quickly add a little mini fun fact. This is almost an element of full circle, because in 2013 England played Spain in a European game and Spain won. And somebody scored a very, very, very late winner called Alexis, who I believe was her first goal for a country, and she's not scored in a tournament since. So this would be the perfect opportunity for her to get her second goal. So we'll wait to see what happens.
I hate you.
Right, but literally it's going to be a very, very interesting clash. To see how these two teams line up. I have a feeling the England lineup is going to be the same. Spain as well. Depends on whether he's going to sub Alexia, and obviously Salma is going to be influential when she comes onto the pitch, on whenever she's on the pitch. In terms of England, I personally feel that there's not going to be any change. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about Lauren James coming back as well. Do you want to very quickly go into that?
Yes. So Lauren James looked like she was going to become the star of the tournament. Winner against Denmark, brilliant performance against an albeit rather poor China side. I don't really like to draw parallels to men's games, but men's sports. But from an England perspective, we think of players like Rooney, like Beckham, who looked like they were going to have this amazing tournament. And then David Beckham in '98, he got sent off for an act of petulance. And it happened to James against Nigeria. She got frustrated. She was marched out of the game. She's very young, very raw, very naive. and it showed they wound her up, and she did something very stupid. His dancer player was rightly sent off. Serena now has a lovely predicament that Ella Toon has finally hit some form, and now she has two really good players she can play in that position. For me, I would stick with two. And the reason I stick with her is because that she has grown since Nigeria game. She's grown with the team, and they've got those bonds and connections. And I look at the Australia team in the semi-final. They had the team with in attack Ford, Rasso, Fowler, Wegman. They had grown for the tournament without Sam Kerr. Then they threw Sam Kerr in against England, and it just changed the attack. All the connections that they had built over tournament are gone, and it just became give the ball to Sam Kerr and make her score. I think England would be reckless of England if they brought James in now and changed everything. And Serena Wiegmann is not known for changing her signs. In fact, this World Cup was a very wild World Cup because until the semi-final, she had to change the game because the team, because Spencer's injuries. Keep the team the same, and I think 60, 70 minutes to go. If it's still level or if England are in a bit of trouble, take Toon off, bring James on, explosive off the bench. And I think that's how she'll be utilised.
Yep. That's a good point, and I too would be looking forward to that. So let's deviate a little bit from the finals and just talk about as I said earlier, the game has grown immensely since I think many of us started watching it back then. In terms of investment, in terms of the noise that it's creating right now, and coming to one important aspect is currently what's happening with the Spanish team. Of course, we don't want to take it away from the fact that they're playing a very important final, and we don't want it to overshadow, like the final itself. But I think it's important that a lot of us understand and know what's happening with the team. So, Unity, do you want to take a few minutes to, throw some light on what is happening and, let us know? Take it away. This is your segment.
Okay, so as we know that we have certain players who are not there currently in the squad. Primarily, that we know the entire last 15 debacle that happened. Where the players stood up against the federation, and they did not want to come back, etc., etc., etc. The primary thing that people need to understand is the fact that these players have asked for changes which have not been there, for them to perform at their very best. Because at the end of the day, we are talking about a professional team that require a professional environment. Now, anybody who has watched, the recap show by Tobin Heath and Kristen Press, it's a very important, point that was put forth by Kristen that, for the US national team, for them, the national team was always the benchmark, and then the clubs were always, beneath it, and they had to take, the national team, at the very best, and push the club level to come to that level with the national team. But in Spain, it's the exact opposite, where you see a club like Barcelona, invest so much money into making the environment more professional, bringing in more physio, sports science, etc., etc., and then you see them go back to the national team camp, where the environment is not only sustainable but also toxic at the same time. Because we had Alexia's documentary where she mentioned something about travel, which was very important. For example, like other teams would be taking a plane to go from point A to point B in terms of matches, etc. While in, but the Spanish team would end up taking a bus, meaning that they would spend their precious hours of a day off, spending that to travel, and ultimately they would reach their destination more exhausted than they were at the beginning. So there are small little things that for example, before the start of the tournament, it was announced that for the first time, the team was going to have a nutritionist, which is something that is so basic, that is required by every team. And at the same time, it was mentioned that they were going to be getting a fourth physio. So that's 4 physios for a group of 23 players, and previously it was 3. So it's like they're not even running on the bare minimum, according to me. So not having a nutritionist, running on less crew and everything. So is the environment really professional then? Because if you
Right.
see, for example, how the other clubs are investing in the game, and then you come back to the national team and face these issues, you often think that is everything okay? Like how does that match up? Because if you go to see the national team, the Spanish national team has a very good reputation of sending most of their players back injured, and Adam knows about it, and I've mentioned this multiple times, but a great example is Mariona Caldente herself. And she
Right.
has come in, just fresh off of an injury and, just recovering, but, has gone back injured multiple times. And this has happened way too many times with many players. And, to the point where the clubs are actually angry with the federation because, these things are not okay. So to they don't even have the bare minimum, and that is what the players were fighting for.
Right.
And then there was a war that ended up as expected. We ended up having a war in terms of the players who came back, the players who did not come back, and the players who were not called up. Now, uh, this is one of the most important things that everybody needs to understand. There are three different sets of players amongst the 15 players. One was who said that they wanted to come back and got called back up. One set of people who did not want to come back and obviously were not called. And there was one set of players that did say that they wanted to come, but they were never called out. Now, that's the differentiation that's very important. Amongst them, you have to understand that Mapi Leon, Patri Guijarro, Claudia Pina, Ainoa Morazza, you have Nerea Izaguirre, and you have Amayur Sariegi, Lola Gallardo. You have 7 players who have basically said that we are not going to come back because the changes that the federation is telling us is not enough for us to come back. That is the main reason why they are not back. Then there are players who have said who are back. Only 3 of them: Onabache, Aitana Bomati, and who was it? Mariona Caldente. 3 players who came back amongst the 15. Okay, who said that they are fine with whatever changes that have been made. They are satisfied with whatever changes have been made, and that's the reason why they're back. Now, this is a point where everybody has started confusing, where they kept saying that, why is Irene Paredes back? Why is Alexia back? And why did they not stand up? The basic thing is that they did not ever send the emails for them, to be considered as ineligible. Now, I think Irene Paredes is very self-explanatory why she did not send it, because I think everybody had automatically assumed with what had happened back in September of last year that we were possibly never going to be seeing her back again at the national team. Alexia was ineligible because she was already injured, so she could not have been called up in the first place. So that's one of the biggest things that people seem to confuse. And I've seen a lot of hate against Alexia. I've seen a lot of hate against Irene Paredes, stating that they should have supported the team. They did support the team, but it's just that there are other legalities because of which they could not send those letters. It's as simple as that. So that is one of the main things that people have gotten confused over. And the fact that I have seen people saying that Mapi, Patri, Pina, and the 7 players who decided to not come back, that this team is better than is doing better when they aren't here. But in reality, Mapi Leon is one of the best centre backs in the world, without a doubt. Patri Guijarro is one of the best midfielders in the world, and I am saying that in the world because you can't even justify anything against it. You can't justify your words saying that they are not. So to say that a team is better than some of these world class players is very poor in my opinion. So you can imagine if this team is performing well right now with these group of players who are still missing out on some of the best. Can you imagine if all the best were clubbed together in one team? What kind of madness could they, create on the pitch? That's
Right.
the most fascinating
Absolutely.
thing.
Imagine Spain with all the best players coached by Serena Wiegman.
Wow. Just
That,
wow.
What
and I
would
think
I
give.
give up to watch that happen?
But what's really interesting about this final is that it is a final of absentees. And I'm saying this on a separate pod, but for Spain's absentees, it's all political. But for England, it's injuries and retirements. I mean, we as
Right.
much as we say you've got your 8 players, whether it's that who aren't there, we haven't got Beth Mead, we haven't got Leah Williamson, we haven't got Fran
Right.
Kirby. We've had suspensions and we've had Ellen White and Jill Scott retire. And I didn't think I would be able to get to the final, but we've managed to mash something together to get this far. And
Right.
it's going to be interesting to see how that pans out.
Yeah. So, firstly, thank you for shedding light on that. And I think what a lot of football fans who are, new to watching women's football need to understand is that it's not just football. There's so much more, that we're fighting for. We're fighting for respect. We're fighting for, um, you know, the game to grow. Just you can see that every team that came out and played, it was not easy. They were always facing some sort of challenges, whether it's just the funding, whether it's something like what Spain is facing. There's literally so much that every team is fighting for. Like obviously, it started with the US, you know, years ago, them standing up for a lot of things, and this World Cup is just so much more than just the matches that the players play and we fans watch. So yes,
I I think the most important fact about this tournament is that even with limited resources, limited funding, limited investment, if these teams are doing so well, especially shedding light to the African countries, shedding light
right,
to the Latin American countries, if these teams are doing this well without the federations really supporting them, can you imagine the kind of havoc they can wreak, when if they have all the support in the world, like what we see in men's football. Like obviously we don't want it to grow like that, or it to become like that, but to think how much what it could be if they really had the investment and the support that they should be getting. With all of that, you can totally imagine what this tournament could have been with it.
Can we
right.
just on that one, so quick say, Group H, Germany going out of the group stage behind Morocco and Colombia. That is this World Cup in a nutshell, and that just shows the progress that's been made. But it also shows how much more potential there is, because these two, Morocco and Colombia, they're on budgets way less than Germany and way less than us. They could become footballing giants if they're willing to put the money and the effort and the time in and the respect in. And I think that is what's quite exciting about that.
What's very interesting is the fact that Morocco has been investing heavily into football in general right now, both into women's and men's football. Because if you saw the African Cup of Nations, Morocco was fantastic, and the fact that they've invested into the game so much, into their team so much, is reaping them fruits, because what they created history with just getting out of the group stages off to the knockout stages. Like that's a big thing for a country like Morocco,
Right.
So that's the thing. It's like if you invest, it clearly shows that you will see results. But the fact is that everybody wants the results instantly, and nobody understands that these things take time, and nobody has the patience or wants to invest into something called as time.
Yeah, I think this is such an important part of talking about women's football and the World Cup as well. And thank you guys for doing this. But let's move on to a little bit of a fun segment right now. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions to both of you, and you need to choose a player either from the Spanish or from the English squad. Okay, so the players up for consideration are just from the English or the Spanish squad. Okay, so if you needed to choose one player to teach or to improve your shooting technique, who would you choose?
Oh, that's easy.
Alexia.
Russo.
Fair enough, fair enough. You had to bet on one player to score in the final.
Aitana.
Can we just choose the same player over and over again? No, I'm gonna be fair. Lauren Hemp.
Hemp. Okay, and Unity, you said?
Aitana Bomati.
Fair enough, fair enough. Okay, you had to choose one player to motivate your team on a dull day. Who would you choose? Unnati, go first.
Okay. Yeah, hands. I would say okay. Should we say Lucy Bronze, Adam, for the comedian?
That's fair. That's a fair
I was
choice.
thinking her. I mean, the one I would choose would be Leah Williamson, but she's out injured. Definitely,
Right.
though, definitely Bronze with her experience could rally the troops.
I mean, if it's a motivational talk, I would say Alexia, because she knows how to get the team pumped up and everything. But if it's a dull day, knowing that she would be the first person to be very angry, I would say probably Lucy Bronze.
I would also say
Okay.
if you want to lead a sing song, it's got to be Rachel Daly singing "River Deep."
Good
Mountain
choice.
High.
Good choice. Good choice.
I totally forgot about that.
Okay, so if you could choose one player you could get a selfie with, Unnati, I think you've already gone ahead and done this. But let's say one player who you haven't had a selfie with yet.
Okay, well, I don't really do selfies and such because I see that at the end of full
Oh, let's
time.
see an autograph, maybe.
Well, the problem is like you get to full time at Meadow Park, all the players are going around, and I'm like.
Adam has everybody's autograph, so he doesn't need anybody's autograph at this point. Adam, you're disqualified.
I don't have autographs, okay? I don't have that. But if I could, it would be Russo, but for multiple reasons. But it would be the Russo if I could get a selfie.
Okay.
Do I really have to select one player?
Yeah. Just the whole point. Just one player.
I think we should rephrase it. Who would you have as a tattoo on your arm, Unity, if you could?
I don't know if you can see it. I don't know if you can really see it.
There you go. That's your answer right there.
Wow. Okay. So that's such a good tattoo. But let's just quickly move on to the next question. Okay, let's not choose the selfie one. Okay. One player who would definitely nutmeg you.
Pariello.
Aitana. I mean, even it would be pretty much any of them, but I would say that.
Absolutely. Any of the Spanish players, they'd have me.
Right. One player who you would like to interview.
Aitana, because I haven't interviewed her. I have with Alexia, so I'm gonna keep Alexia out of this.
I'm gonna pick Lotte Wubben-Moy. I think she's a fascinating woman, and she hasn't played in the tournament. She's been on the bench, but she is so, I'd say, intelligent, switched on to social politics. After the Euro, she did the letter to the government to get more hours into the PE sessions for women to play football. I think it'll be fascinating to hear her perspective of a player who sadly hasn't played at the tournament, but has been at 2 tournaments now and is doing so much good work for in the community as well.
Yeah, good choice. And the final one player you are fangirling over this World Cup.
The player I'm fangirling over is actually not on the squad. So does that count?
Well,
no. Let's just stick to the squad, the World Cup final squad.
If Beth Mead was fit and able to play, it would be her. But if anybody who's seen my Twitter handle will know the player I put all the chips on. So I'm afraid I'm going to have to say Russo again, even though there are many players. If it wasn't Russo, I would say I'll probably go Mary Earps, maybe give her a bit of love because she's a goalkeeper.
She's been fantastic, and something that I've noticed is her confidence. I love her confidence. It's just you can just feel it through the screen. Just
Absolutely.
brilliant here.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I think that's the questions, the fun round of
Okay.
questions that we have. Hope you enjoyed it. So yeah, I think we've spoken a lot about various things. I think we could definitely go on, but I think we should uh, head towards the end of this episode. I think let's end it off with your predictions for the game
Right.
and who do you think is winning?
Well,
Uh,
can I offer the olive branch to Unity? Because considering where we have posted our flags in the ground with both our teams, I shall say I am predicting a Spain win.
And I'm
Unity.
predicting an England win.
I think
And
it's going to be
what
a
about the
great game.
score prediction? Someone says heart says Spain wins on pens, but the head says England win 2-1. Let's
Uh,
see how those predictions come true. But do you guys want to predict the score line?
yeah, in another project, and I'll stick with it. I think it'll be. I'm going to go 2-0 Spain.
Okay.
I think it will be a lot closer than that. So I would say possibly 2-1 to England. Yeah.
No
I
penalty
I I
shootouts. No penalty shootouts.
no. And if it does go to penalty shootouts, I think I will just either crash my laptop or my TV because I can't handle them anymore.
Yeah, exactly. I was literally going to say that. Like, I cannot take more penalty shootouts. The amount we've seen this tournament. Oh,
I mean, listen, the sheer trauma that I was going through during the
France.
Australia France game. The sheer trauma that I was going through, I was like, please, can this be over already? Because the funniest thing was I was making graphics for Art of Football, and I had to keep changing it like again and again. And the second, and the thing is that I had to change the photo and the score, and the problem was, in a second it looked like Australia was going to win, and then suddenly they don't score, and then I'm like, okay, France scores, and then I'm like, okay, France is winning. So I've gone back and forth like at least 10 times throughout the entire 30-minute period of.
I want to give a shout out to punch shootouts to the Sweden USA game because I was Team Sweden throughout that shootout and put me through the ringer. And Lena Hurtig, I mean, I'm an Arsenal fan here, and Lena has had a great season for Arsenal. But what a way to win a penalty shootout against the USA. It was so Lena Hurtig, and I was so happy for her that was the goal because she deserved that.
Absolutely.
It was incredible.
I mean, if you don't know why that goal was a Lena Hurtig goal, are you really watching women's football?
Yeah, watch Arsenal season with Hurtig. Bless her. But yeah, so happy for that moment, and that will, I think, that'll do a lot of good.
Perfect. Thank you so much, guys. It's been so fun, having this conversation, and can't wait for the match to happen. Obviously, I'm kind of going to be rooting for England, but let's see how that goes. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you to everyone who put in some comments and your questions. Hope we can do this sometime after the World Cup and continue talking about football, continue spreading how important women's football is and how great it's been doing. So thank you so much and have a good day. Bye bye.